Yeah, the first time I had a Bang energy drink, I definitely I don't think I got the jitters, but I felt like I had superpowers that day. It was weird because it was so it was so potent, and then after having a few more experiences within that month or so, it stopped working like that. The first, it's like a huge caffeine shock to the system.
Essentially 3 cups of coffee at once.
Right. Which, you don't want to chug it or anything, but
I had 2 bangs in one day, and let me tell you, it was...
Yeah, that would send you to the moon.
If moon, just like the cryptocurrency. To the moon.
I just drank 2 bangs and I'm chasing Dogecoin. Let's go. There he is. How you feeling? I'm already recording, guys, so I don't know where y'all at.
Oh, I'm ready to click the recording button anytime.
Recording.
You record? You're both
all right, starting it up. Yep, we're good.
Cool. Anthony's got the intro on this one. I'm supposed to have my clock up. I don't know what I'm doing with my life without that up right now. Time.gov, quick. All right. Well, just hit 37. Do you want to do 37:15 maybe, or 10? How you feeling?
Let me get time and date up. I don't have time and date up. Okay. Now it's up.
All right. 37:25.
Oh, let me get the time and date thing up. Click. Okay. Right. 37 what?
37:35?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
We're clapping every 2 seconds?
No, just the once. Did you hit it?
Yep.
Fantastic. You guys are pretty in sync there, so that worked out really well.
Welcome, everybody, to the A4NB4Y podcast. Last episode, we had gone over some side quests, some interesting storylines with a few characters, such as, Pippet and basically the legend of Pippet last episode, essentially. And now this episode, we are going to travel back to the woods, only this time... we're going to sprawl into a new part of the woods. My name is Tony, Anthony, and I'm with my co-hosts here.
I'm Ryan Fonzie, and I am a Groose update machine.
I'm Cameron Hagee, and I have wings because I drank some Red Bull.
Nice.
I'm an empty cup of coffee.
All right.
Well, man, you already did your intro. Come on,
you missed it, man. You missed it. You can't be doing that. You can't be retconning your intro. Get out of here. So yeah, last time we were down here, we got these the dragon scale, right? And then we bounced because we wanted to do some side quests. But now we're back, and we're encouraged to look at places we haven't been before. So there's obviously we got to scale that so that we could swim. So why wouldn't we just jump in the water right away, right? So we do, and we find an entrance to a tree. We climb that tree. That's like the short version. We climb that tree. There's some enemies. It's all good. We get past them, and we run into a Kikwi that we never met before. And this dude, he's been snoring up in this tree. His name is Yerbal, like a herbal tea. And he's got serious, old man prospector vibes about him. He's been
around for a while.
Yeah. He's y'all looking for the sacred flame? Well, we're going to have to talk to the dragon about that. He has a whole, I don't even remember exactly how much information he gives you. But the gist is you have to go find a symbol on a Pharaon symbol is somewhere in the forest, which we already kind of know where that is. There's a viewing platform with it, and we have to copy the missing piece of that symbol on a gate in order to go to the next area. So we do that. And we enter into this new area called Lake Floria. And the entry is beautiful. It's like a big old like waterfall feeding into like this big old lake, and it's all crystal clear and gorgeous. We dive right down into that because we're expert divers, right?
Link's probably never dived in his life before. Actually,
he's got this.
Skydiving, that kind of counts, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that definitely counts.
Jumping off a loft wings, I think he can jump off a cliff, right?
That's hard mode.
Worst case scenario, he pulls out the sailcloth, just like drifts into the water at the bottom.
Touches his toe and is like, oh, no, that's cold, and then hops back up to the top of the cliff.
I changed my mind. I don't want to.
Be like Wile E. Coyote stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, we get strung along by a current, and we're kind of swimming along in this basically new water place here. I got the vibes of like Zora's Domain a little bit from this, but definitely not with the peoples that we run into here. If you swim far enough, start to see some funky looking, like what would you say, like seahorse looking peoples?
Yeah, it's like a cross between like a seahorse and a jellyfish. Like it's got the big umbrella thing going on, like as its fins, I guess.
Mm.
It's a parella, I believe, is the name of the species.
You sure it wasn't a pariah?
A pariah. You gotta get that double L in there.
The double
makes it sound way more fierce than it is because. Yeah, so the first one we meet, I don't know if the game even tells us this at this part of the game, but it's a unique parella. There's not a lot of unique pariahs, but this one is named Jelif or Jayif, if you want to go
do
that
the double
route.
L?
Jayif.
Jayif.
My name is Jayif.
We were making fun of this before you came on earlier.
So if you don't do it, it's kind of clear that this is just jellyfish with the ish cut off. I don't know who named this, like who decided that was going to be the naming scheme of these creatures, but
they didn't have like a T scheme to base these guys off of, so they only named one of them.
Yeah, I'm 100% Jelif. There ain't no ish about it, man. It is what it is. Anyway.
Jelif.
Right. And Jelif is at first afraid of us and like takes us down this whole path, kind of running away from us, like, oh no, you can't see so and so. But along the way kind of gets impressed by the fact that you can like spin your way through wooden barriers and jump over things, and eventually you kind of win him over, right? Or her. I think Jelif is a girl. I don't know why that matters. It doesn't, but you win her over, and
we start to win over the pariah, the Jelif here, and then Jelif goes on to tell us like that maybe you're the one, and we're like, I mean, I've been told this before, but what do you mean by this? And then she goes on to explain that a crazy man has come and with his minions and attacked the water dragon and blah 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 blah. And you start to follow Jelif around, you get to see like one of Girahim's minions, and it's this like giant fish with a brain that's too big for his body. And
yeah, I believe these are based off of a real fish too, which is kind of messed up. Like there's fish that get big lump on the front of their head.
There's like it's like a unicorn fish. I showed you, Cameron, at what we were at Disney Springs. Remember that fish that like
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's what it's possibly based off of. I could be wrong, but it looks like that.
I must be misremembering it because I feel like I'm remembering that lump being on its chin, and it looked like the crimson chin fish, but
So it's a giant cranium. There's two. There's like a giant chin and a giant forehead. It's like really weird.
Yeah, I remember going to an aquarium and seeing like, I don't remember how this happened. They had this giant tank, and I can't remember if they had gourami in it or if they had cichlids in it or if they had both. But they were all like grown to be massive because they lived in this huge tank, so they could do that. You know how like some fish can like get bigger the bigger the tank you give them?
Yeah.
And like once they got to a certain size, they would start developing a big lump on the top of their head like that, and they kind of look like that. Just random. I don't know if it even means anything, but these are some demon fish.
They are.
Yeah, you can tell they don't belong.
Yeah, they charge at you. You can just spin at them. They're pretty simple.
Yeah,
to defeat.
And so we beat them, and we keep following Elif here, and then you've been noticing most of the other Pirella kind of have like some coral on the top of their head, but Elif in particular has this royal crown that we talked about, and it actually serves as a key to get to the chamber of the water dragon. And so Jelif will kind of just like insert herself into this door and then turn as if she was a key, and it's really hilarious to watch.
Yeah, it definitely caught me off guard. Like, I played this game before, and it still caught me off guard this time. I was like, what are you doing? Like, are you just going to swim through the door? No, you're just going to stick your head in and turn. Okay, great. Cool. Oh, my goodness.
Is that like the eternal jellyfish, too? Jellyf? Because, like, is it the thing on the top of her head never going to change so that it's always going to fit that door? When they were creating that door, they had to think about like what fish they wanted the head to be the one to go into it.
Said that like
it's never going to age.
Here, we're going to trace your head to make these tumblers.
Yeah, and then if anything ever changes or you lose a chip off one, we'll never be able to get in again. I feel like there's some oversights.
They probably have a copy somewhere. Like
they got a backup key.
Yeah, they keep it in the garage, you know.
All right, we're going to mold your head. Hold still.
Little hide a key under one of the rocks out there. It's all good. Oh, goodness.
That'd be perfect.
So we get in and we meet Pharaon, who is the dragon spirit person. Who's like, you know, the deity of Pharaon Woods, right? Like the woods are, who's named after who? I don't know. Doesn't say that. The game doesn't explain. It's her woods. Her
name. Essentially believe that, you know, the dragon came first.
Well, she's supposed to be ancient, right? Like the only reason Yerbal knows the dragon, because I guess that's part of his character, is because he's mad old, like back before she had this big realm or whatever. Like a bunch of people don't know where she is, but he does. To the point where, like, Pharaon actually says, like, oh, I'm going to have to talk with that little Kikwi. It's like, oh,
yeah.
Yerbal's in trouble. But yeah, she kind of goes through the same thing. She tells you that Girahim came in and kind of got off a surprise attack that they just weren't prepared for. As it almost comes across like and the sun was in my eyes, and that's why he beat me, because Girahim definitely injured her. And now she's in this tub trying to get better. But she's running low on sacred water, apparently. So our first major backtrack is on its way.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more sacred water.
Exactly. So it's like, where are we going to find sacred water? Well, glad you asked. I don't know. Like, I think Fee even lets you douse for it. As
couldn't possibly mean the sacred spring,
right? Where Zelda took her sacred bath, you know, like what? So we have to make our way all the way back through Skyview Temple, and of course, like we've been there before, so it's a lot quicker this time. There's a few little gimmicks, like we got to like swim through holes and stuff, but overall, it's not really that much harder.
How did that door relock itself, man?
None of the doors, well, like one of the doors relocked itself, right?
Yeah.
Most of them didn't. I don't know.
No, only one of them did, but
I don't know, man.
My friends is in there.
Why does, I was going to say, Quartz is there for whatever reason. Specifically Quartz.
That's a good point.
The new enemy that, like, the explanation is, so you know how when we first went through Skyview Temple, there was red bokoblin archers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it said the reason that now they're green is because they've been in here for so long that their skin turned like mossy green. Because they've been in this like watery, grassy temple for so long that like they grew algae. That's the explanation that like the wiki gave for like why they're green now.
In between the last time we was there and now?
Yeah.
They've been there so long in the past 2 days.
Yeah.
That their skin has completely changed colors.
Yes.
Okay.
So Are Bacalobins just like golems or something? Are they made out of the earth? Like,
Apparently.
okay. I guess that would explain how they respawn so much.
Time just hits them different.
Yeah. When I first got in here this time, like one of the first things I noticed is that there was a goddess wall. So I went up and I played the harp to the butterflies, and then the little goddess wall lit up, and then immediately quartz came out of the ground and was like, "Hey, I'm looking for treasure. What's going on?" And I was like, "Is this what the goddess wall is supposed to do?" Because I hadn't like talked to anybody. Like, you know, I think Gorko told me that they existed, but I hadn't really been able to use one yet. So this was the first wall I had come up to in my playthrough. And it made quartz appear, and I'm like, that doesn't seem quite right. Like, I'm pretty sure these walls are supposed to do something else. And later I found out they do, but for now I just left it. I just left the wall where it was. I was like, all right, great, quartz is here. He's like, there's treasure, and then he just disappears, basically. And I'm like, okay, great.
A little hint to just found out, actually, within the last week. Draw a Triforce symbol on the little graph it gives you on the
goddess wall?
Goddess wall? Yeah. You'll get 3 fairies.
Oh, very nice.
What?
I drew the first
I never
one,
knew that.
The first one I knew about, I drew a circle because I didn't know what to draw, and it gave me bombs. And then I remembered that if you draw...
So if you draw a line, you get an arrow.
Okay.
And hearts is hearts. I don't know what you draw to get a rupee.
You draw a hexagon to get a rupee. Like, you try to draw a rupee shape, basically.
Okay. And then bombs is a circle, and then if you draw a Triforce, you get fairies. There might be more that I don't know about. Those are just the ones that I've played around with.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, it was a good thing that Anthony was watching me play that, or else I wouldn't even have remembered at all that I could do the harp around fairies, or I mean butterflies to get that.
Yeah. I told you, I was like, hey man, you know this in Butterflies Day.
Yeah, you're like, hey, don't you know what to do around butterflies? And I looked at him, I was like, no. And he's like, pull out the harp. I was like, oh, okay. So I don't remember hearing about that.
Am I the only one who was disappointed that Quartz, though, like, spends this whole, like, revisit to the dungeon talking about some treasure, only to get to the end and be like, I can't get through this door. It looks like there's no treasure in here anyway. Just a bunch of water or whatever. Like, he just basically gives up the search, and then there really isn't a treasure. Like, I was like, maybe they put a new goddess cube in here, or maybe there's a heart piece hidden somewhere, and he's, like, trying to find it, but he doesn't know it. And we're going to get it first, but then there was no payoff for that whatsoever.
Nope.
Yeah, he's just on a wild treasure hunt.
And he, like,
Magmas,
for some reason,
don't know, man.
buried a key and forgot where it was. I don't know what it is with magmas and buried keys and just being able to dig underground anyways, so they never even needed a key. They got some weird fixation with keys.
They're like dogs.
Yeah, they really are. It's like, I got this key. What should I do with it? And then they got like the multiple choice, like keep it on my person, dig a hole and forget about it. Like, that one sounds like it would be a New York accent thing to do. I'm gonna dig a hole and forget about it.
Forget about it. Got this key. Hey, Quartz, forget about it.
Like, oh, you want me to dig it and put it in the ground and then forget about it?
There is a thing in the like if you look on like a wiki or whatever, the nomenclature of magma. It can be mole magma or it could be dog magma because, you know, magma.
Magma.
Yeah. But
like that.
If you look at their legs, you think dog. If you look at their arms, you think mole. Like it's just they're a weird conglomeration of animal.
Of a dog though. So
but the nose of a mole.
Like, it's so weird, man.
Maybe Mog is actually mole and dog combined, so it's Mogma.
Wow, that's deep.
Okay.
So deep, man. All right,
like so sage.
After we do the goddess wall thing, we get the key because, you know, the magma quartz is his key. We go through a bunch of stuff. We kill some skeletons.
We swim. We run in circles. You know,
kill some. What are those things? The
Skulltulas,
Staldra, the centipede-looking things with like the heads. And we go across the tightrope, and then we get to the boss room. And then, boom, voila, get to the spring again. Who would have thunk that? would have happened, right?
That new boss though, y'all catch that new boss? They dropped that new boss on us. It's called
New boss.
three Stelvos at once.
Yeah. So I was like, we fight some skeletons.
I mean, it was a good fight. It was a good fight. 3 Stelvos was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was.
It was definitely like, oh, we got back to the boss room. Yeah, here's some skellies. You know. You're not going to give us a whole new thing.
Girahim wasn't feeling too creative, so here we are.
Right? Yeah. That was a Girahim's
like
dignity that you killed off of him last time you were here. Came back as 3 Stelvos. So we get through, and it's the same spring we've been to before, so there's really no reason to like explore it too much. But the sacred water is specifically under one waterfall, like where the fairies are. Even though the whole thing would reasonably have at least some of that in it. I don't know. Maybe when Zelda took her bath, she made it dirty, and now it's only sacred in that one spot. I don't know.
The waterfalls aren't pure. It's just that one waterfall.
It's not sacred anymore. Now it's just dirty bath water.
Except that one.
Except that one spot, because that's where the water just came in. It's pure there. It's like when you stick your foot under the faucet, like, you know, if you got bath water already.
It's hotter right under the hot water. It's more purer right under the pure spring, you know?
Yeah, that's the pure waterfall. The rest of these waterfalls are all jank.
Coming from ghetto places.
They got some dirt mixed in with them somewhere. It just ain't pure enough, you know?
Right. That's what I'm saying. So we get our bottle of water.
Our bottle of water. We return with our Aquafina.
Not gonna lie,
our Poland Spring.
When I came to the forest, I knew ahead of time what I needed to do. So I was proactive about it before I even climbed the tree. I went into Skyview, did all of this, got the bottle of water. Then I did everything. And so when I got to the water dragon, she's like, I need some hot spring water to be revitalized. And I'm like, well, I got just the thing for you.
What a coinky dink. I'm surprised it even lets you get that, because I would think it wouldn't even be considered pure until the trigger made it that, which would be like talking to her first. Is how I would think it would be programmed.
Did you go to the right waterfall?
You can douse for it.
I thought you couldn't douse for it until she asked for it, though.
Well, I don't know. I went to the waterfall and I got the water, and I was.
Was it like when you walked into the room? Was it the leftmost waterfall that you went to? Because that's the one that let me get.
It sort of sparkles a little bit when you go over there.
Oh, it does still sparkle even before the trigger is set for you to need that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
So the real question now is, did you guys traverse Faron to get from the dragon to Skyview and back to the dragon? Like, did you actually go back through the forest, like go back through the deep woods to get there?
Yes, because I didn't make the connection that I needed to go to the temple to get the sacred water, so I ended up running around a lot of that area looking for the sacred water.
Okay. Makes sense.
But I'm pretty sure after I got the sacred water, I just went to the nearest statue, teleported back to the sky because I didn't have my amiibo card on me because I was at Anthony's down in Florida, and then I flew to the underwater lake and then went from there.
I believe I went to the lake too. So, like, I think I did fly back up because that's when I went up and I bought the sacred shield, and then I upgraded the sacred shield as much as I could.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I definitely just like, she was like, go get water. I was like, all right, where my loft wing at? I dropped over at Skyview, looked back and was like, oh wow, they put a bunch of like big old moblins on that path. Good thing I just dropped down. And then on my way back, I was like, all right, back to the sky. So I'm not going through all that again. Even though I never did it the first time. And then I just dropped back down over by the dragon. I was like, this is great.
Oh, well, yeah, when I came in,
it makes it so much easier.
It'd be even easier if you had that amiibo fans.
I actually do have the amiibo.
You do?
I haven't taken it out of the box though, because I'm a.
Oh, that makes sense. No, I mean that's smart. That thing is actually a pretty valuable amiibo, or at least it was.
Yeah, now they're like overproducing it, but you know, when it first came out, it was real hard to get, so I grabbed one like, this is going to be valuable one day.
One day.
Maybe worth opening it up then. I don't know. Oh, wait. Actually, it probably doesn't work. You're not playing the HD remake.
Work on the Wii.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, playing that standard edition, you know.
I forgot about that.
Right. So we go back to the dragon, right? Give her bottle of Voss water or whatever you want to. Whatever your favorite
Voss.
brand is.
Sparkling Voss lime.
No, it's Fiji.
Fiji water. It's a good stuff.
That Evian pure Icelandic water.
So we bring that back to her, and it's like, is this enough? I mean, like, clearly it's not. I mean, if you look at the size of the bottle versus the basin she's
also
in,
like, don't you just like pour it on the ground in front of her?
I don't know. I think you
Pretty
might
sure when
actually
you like
pour
give it
in,
to her,
but...
I think you just like pour it, and like Link just dumps it like right there in front of her, and it like magically goes into her tub. I don't remember, but
yeah,
I thought happened.
I'm not that keen on the details, but that would be hilarious. It's not gonna lie.
Something Zelda would do.
Yeah, it's true. It's very Zelda.
But even with this, like, this dragon this whole time has been just kind of giving you, like, a hard time about, like, not looking like you're the hero and, like, not seeming like the hero. And are you sure you're the hero? Like, I know you have the sword, but even the sword's not really up to snuff yet. And just everything is like, you're going to have to prove yourself, right? Like, that's kind of her whole MO. I think even after we're done with this section, like, she's still at the end is like, yeah, you're not quite there yet. You still got
even at the end, she's like, you know, I still don't think you look the part, but your sword's longer now, so you're doing something right.
Yeah, it's upsetting. So I don't know. It just feels like so much of this game is trying to prove Link to different characters, and it's like, guys, just, do you want the help or not? You know, like what is going on here?
You have to admit at this point, he is the hero. So can you stop degrading us? That'd be great. You know, we already have a little flying guy that comes around that calls us shorty pants or something. He does enough. We don't need your help too.
Yeah. That short pants guy, man.
Much everyone we meet aside from the old lady and Zelda degrade you.
Yeah.
Impa, Girahim, Groose.
Groose should be on that list like 4 times.
Yeah, speaking of Groose, I actually had an update for Groose that's long overdue.
Do it.
Tell us.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Groose updates. All right, so so before we get into all of this, which this is just like a short aside here, if you go back to Groose, you talk to Groose, this would be like post getting the song. I'm trying to remember what would trigger that, because like we did the Silent Realm and all that, but even before that, I think once you get the song, this will happen. If you come back, Groose is like, he's not on the wall anymore. He's not like pounding his fist into the cliff. He's actually like thinking. He's kind of got like his, you know, his hand, like his shoulder, or not his shoulder, his elbow in his hand, and like the other hand up on his chin or whatever, like the thinker statue. And he's like, you know, you talk to him, he's like, hey, you know, I've been thinking a lot lately, and, you know, plus Granny's been telling me, like, I do have a part to play in all this, so, like, I'm thinking I'm going to try to make a change here. Try to look at things differently, try to, like, really, you know, find another way to help the team. It's like, it's this new way, I'm going to call it the Groose way.
Groose way.
Yeah, he's like, and what is it? Well, I can't give it away yet, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but, you know, expect some changes around here, basically. So he gives you like this little like pep speech of like, hey, I'm going to be this different person. I'm really going to be a team player now. But we don't get to see what that is just yet. And then we go on this adventure, and I actually have another Groose update at the end of all this. So don't let me forget that, because I'm falling behind with my Groose updates.
I remember.
You're the machine, Fonz.
But basically I know, right? But basically what he's shared with us is that he's going to try to live up to his goose name and try to be a team player. So good on him. And that's been our Groose update.
That should be the end of every Groose update. We're like,
goodness.
Oh, back to your paid programming.
Yeah. So So we get all kinds of problems from all these different people. But that's really, this is our first chance, I guess, to prove ourselves or something along those lines. We're going after the Sacred Flame, right? So the gateway's open. I think there's a big waterfall that was in our way before to get to the ancient cistern, and now it's quelled. It's done. They closed it up. We can actually get in. And when we do get in, the first thing we are met with is a massive stone statue.
And a bunch of lily pads.
There's been lotus flowers and stuff outside the temple, inside the temple. Everything is really pretty and well kept, even though apparently this place has been sealed off for years. And I think the dragon even told us oh yeah, it's been sealed off forever, but some monsters still managed to get inside somehow, so you still got to be careful. We're oh, okay. So we get in. I think it's one of the first ones where we don't actually descend into it either. I think we just kind of walk straight in. And we're met with this giant statue. Now, so I guess this is the first sidebar that I'll go on, because this statue is going to end up meaning a whole lot of different things. This whole temple is a lot like Ocarina of Time's Forest Temple. You can tell whoever made it put in some work to bring in outside influences and outside stories to try to say something about this game. So the first thing that people will realize about this statue is that it looks like Buddhist artwork. I did a little bit of research on Buddhist artwork. And by a little bit of research, I mean literally did some Google searches, a little bit of wiki diving, nothing major, just online warrior kind of nonsense. So I am not by any means an expert or any kind of knowledgeable source on Buddhism.
Buddhist monk fans.
That's what I'll say. If I was to look up into a fourth story window of a cathedral and tell you, hey, I think they have some decorations on the ceiling, that's about where I'm at in my level of knowledge on Buddhism. So I'm going to share a lot of different random things that I found that I think are relevant. But honestly, if you're a listener and you're Buddhist, I'm so sorry, because this might end up being disrespectful, and I don't know. I'm not the guy to go to for this kind of information. But
let me say one thing too. That statue also kind of reminded me of the Majora's Mask. What is it? The Snowhead Temple, because that temple has one big tower in the middle of it. That a whole bunch of where a whole bunch of the temple revolved around changing that pillar to get it to where you wanted it to be. I kind of felt like this was a little similar to that too. Although that's where the comparison ends.
Gotcha. So I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with this, mostly because some of the other podcasts I listened to, and I'll get into more of that later, have kind of mentioned that there obvious Buddhist references here. But when I looked into it, I tried to look up some artwork, and yes, I found statues of the Buddha, who's the first guy, the main guy, right? There's a lot of names and vocabulary here that I'm going to leave out just to make things a little bit easier to digest if you're not into any of it. But there's actually more than one Buddha, I get. There's different deities, and a lot of them kind of fulfill the same roles. Some of them are, people who are on the way to becoming a Buddha, and that there's a whole class of deity based around that as well. It's called a bodhisattva, I believe. And one of the ones that stood out to me was this character. I say character but you know what I mean. This person, Guan Yin. Guan Yin is normally depicted as a female, but it's based off of a male character from the past. But this is another one of those things where in the Buddhist, scope, that kind of detail doesn't really mean anything. It's kind of weird. I don't want to dive too far into the weeds here. But the reason I bring this up is because there's this massive statue that was built kind of around the time this game came out. It might have even been a few years before the game came out, of this Guan Yin character. And she was supposed to be the patron deity of compassion. The name literally means the one who hears the world, or the one who hears those in suffering, right? There's a lot of Buddhist ideas about healing things that are suffering and stuff like that. And as the original Buddha was big on it, but also this other Bodhisattva Buddha character also has that. And she's often depicted as floating on lilies, or not on lilies, sorry, on on lotuses, which we would call a water lily. And she she's like the patron deity of a couple other things, like one of them being a fisherman, and there's like fish statues all over this place. The big statue that got built was actually like based on a story of her where she like was having trouble considering the needs of, like, she was trying to consider all the suffering in the world, right? And she thought so hard about it that her face split into 11 pieces. And
Ooh.
right. And so there was some other deity, I don't remember the name because that's not how far I went, who helped her and instead gave her 11 different faces, or they might even call it 11 different heads, to have the kind of level of consideration she would need in order to think about that many people. The other major detail is the statue that is like so famous has like 1,000 hands, and every single one of them has an eye on it. And that's like, again, like she has all these arms so that she can actually help all these different people. The reason I say this is I think that what the game is trying to do here is give you, they're trying to like build the character of the goddess in this place. Like I genuinely believe that. Like I think that just based on the movements that we'll see this statue do, some of like the things that go on, like there's a lot of imagery, a lot of like very obvious like metaphors that this temple puts forward. And I think that this like patron deity of suffering, or like, you know, like ameliorating suffering, is going to basically try to teach us something about this goddess character that these developers are trying to like push forward. Now, the weirdest thing about all this that I'm sharing is that Nintendo has that policy where they don't put religious imagery in their games. And this seems to be a massive breaking of that rule, because we have like an overworld like that seems almost supposed to be like it's like a paradise. We have an underworld in this temple that seems pretty afterworldy. You know, it's very, very dark. And we have like references to Buddhist stories in the temple. So that's just the first major one I want to point out, and that'll kind of help build some of these other narratives. But at the same time, like there's not a ton more to say about it. It's just the first, it's like the most similar piece of like Buddhist art that I was able to find was a statue of her. Like she's not always depicted as having 11 faces and 1,000 hands. Like she's always like a lot of the artwork around her is just, she just looks like a regular person. One of the things, another just random detail about this statue, the nose is missing. And that's normal for rock statues that are old. Kate and I, not this past year, but the year before that, like the year before Millie was born, we actually went on a trip to Europe. Like we got some advice, and some of our friends were like, hey, how about you guys like save up some, go on a trip that's just for you two before you try to have kids, you know? And so we did. Like we saved up some money. We went on a trip to Europe. It was fantastic. We got to the Louvre, and there are so many like Greek statues in the Louvre that are just straight up missing their nose. Like just a bunch of like Roman centurions and stuff, like all in statue form, like all, you know, the head, like the bust.
First thing that goes.
First thing that goes is the nose falls off. So like that level of detail is here as well. Like it's just, it's silly. Like, I don't know. If there's anything I learned from Ocarina is that if something like this exists in the game, like it's like the Four Poe sisters, right? Like if they're going to make a reference to something, there's going to be a reason behind it. Like they don't just say, I mean, like I'm sure there are situations where they do just say, oh, I like this artwork, I'm going to put that in the game. But in this case, I'm pretty sure they're trying to send a message about, okay, what do we know about the goddess? Like we haven't given you her name yet. We haven't told you much about her. But here is a temple that is 100% dedicated to her. So yeah.
Something that I noticed, and I could be like pulling at weeds here, but you know how like Buddhism is, there's a lot of rebirth, talk about rebirth in Buddhism. So we get to a point somewhere fairly early on in this dungeon where we meet a new enemy called the Phoenix. It's sort of like a phoenix-looking bird. And if we know anything about phoenixes, it's that rebirth thing, right? That, you know, phoenixes are rebirth and they're reborn, and you're born anew. And so you can kind of look at that almost like phoenix birds in this dungeon. And since it's kind of got like heavy Buddhist themes here, that it's almost like another metaphor that they were going with. I'm not trying to say that like these birds are reborn or anything's going on, but it's like I think it was just like a nod way that like they just decided to put some phoenix looking birds in a dungeon about with Buddhism tendencies in it.
Yeah.
What about this? Because you're supposed to be trying to get the flame, right? And the flame is what's going to like increase your spiritual container kind of and allow you to carry more power and allow you to have like a more powerful sword. So this is kind of like the beginning of Link's spiritual rebirth, where he used to just be this lazy guy that would sleep all day and everyone's like, oh, Link, oh, you're not out of bed before 2:00 in the afternoon. Oh, that's just typical you. And now you're saving the world, and like your spirit has to be increased. And this is almost like the beginning of Link's rebirth, kind of like in that way.
Yeah, I mean, diving into it a little bit, like there are so many Buddhist writings and texts, and like depending on what section, because there's like different forms of the whole religion as well. Like just like a lot of different religions. Like this is like, like it's a big thing. Like there's, and what I found that was kind of interesting about it is that yes, like rebirth and like that kind of like that's a big element, that's a big theme, but also like there's a multiverse. there's like a an idea that a lot of these stories that are written like would either demand that they overlap with each other or like they use reoccurring characters in weird ways, and like it's gotten to the point where there's so much that it's like the idea is that there's like this incredible amount of like universes that have their own beginnings and ends and patterns that kind of go through phases that are like described in the Buddhist like I don't think Nintendo was really leaning into this, but I know that they have that own kind of mentality about their Legend of Zelda games. Like, oh, we have all these things, but they're not necessarily chronological. Like, we just kind of like use whatever characters and elements that we want, and then afterwards we're like, oh, does it fit into a timeline? Not really. Doesn't really matter. Like they don't think about that up front. They don't start a game and say, hey, where is this going to be in the history of Hyrule? They just say, we're going to make this fun game, and we're going to, do what we want with it, and then the fans can just like try to pick it apart and see what they can make of it. So it's kind of like it's an interesting parallel if you want to make it. But I don't know. I read that and I was like, that sounds familiar. Sounds like a certain video game series that I like. Not to, be reductive or anything to the Buddhist texts, but I mean, there were so many. Like when I read how many there were, it's like in the thousands or something. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to study any of this before this podcast. So I just was like, that's not really what I'm after in my life anyway. So I let it be.
There you go.
But yeah, so that's the first thing. We see this statue. We're presented with our first puzzle, which is to find the 4 symbols of gratitude. If I remember right. And a reason the inscriptions of gratitude that are on this statue. One on the head, one on the back, one on the rear, one on the back of the left hand, and one on the back of the right hand. It's one of those two.
Yeah. Yep.
I might have gotten the order wrong, but that's where they all are. And they're
I think you got the order right too.
Yeah, and they're all depictions of another lotus plant, like looking from the top down, but with a different direction indicated by like which petal is blue, I guess, if I remember that right.
Yeah, which petal's like filled in.
Yeah. And that's going to be the key to a door. And the only reason I bring this up is, well, 1, because the lotus imagery, but 2, because I did not figure this out the right way. I found the door first that I was trying to open. I didn't even look. I was like, that one needs a small key, so I got to look somewhere else. And I just went a different way. I didn't even read the sign. I was like, all right, we got to get out of here. I think I might have even gotten the silver rupees out of the hands of the statue because I saw them and I was like, oh, nice, big rupee. Let's get it. Then went out, found the door, and I was like, what do I do with this? And I like made a couple guesses and I'm like, nah, that ain't going to work. There's like 24 guesses. I'm not going to do that. So then I went back. Like 24 different patterns it could be.
Got it right. Didn't even bother looking for the patterns in the room. I just went straight to the door and just went bam, 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 bam.
I did it pretty much like you found. I found the door first, and then I guessed one time. It was like, and then I went back and figured out how I was supposed to find out.
Yeah, I went back and found a symbol on the back and on the rear. I did not find the symbols on the hands, and I just assumed, oh, well, these are probably the first two, up and down. So that narrows it down a ways. So then I went back.
Tab in front of the temple that tells you.
Yes, I know. I know that now.
Oh, okay.
So then I went back knowing up and down were my first two, or at least, with the idea that up and down were my first two. I'm like, there's probably a key somewhere in here, but I'm just going to go with this guess for now. Went back, did up, down, right, left, didn't work. And I did up, down, left, right, and it worked or whatever. And I was like, all right, great. 2 tries. Why not? And I went through. And then after I got the small key, I went back to that door and I was like, hey, there's a plaque here. It was like, here's how you find the order. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. Bye.
Thanks, bro.
Man, that
actually helped you with that, Cam. I was like, I don't know. You were like swimming around. And I was like, there's a thing at the front.
Yeah, you said go back to the beginning.
All I said.
And I was like, aye. And then I saw that thing there. I was like, aye.
Like, oh, okay.
So a few other things just before we leave this room for the first time, because I don't feel like trying to double back and remember again. All along the walls of this room, there's like little flames, like on the bottom of the, I guess you'd call it wallpaper. It's probably just paint or whatever, but like the markings, there's little flame markings on the wall on the bottom. And then above that are a bunch of these gold, like, geometric shapes that they reminded me of the paintings, like the paint that the Gorons wear, or at least that Gorko wears, I guess at this point. We haven't met any other Gorons yet. But, it just, to me, like, that was the first connection that I thought I saw. I don't know if it's real or not. That's what I thought. The doors in this place actually completely match the Skyview Temple doors. And I remember when we were at Skyview, we talked about how, like, it was a temple kind of dedicated to the migration of the people up to Skyloft. So it just seems fitting that would be connected to the goddess's temple as well,
I see that.
Just some random visual details. Like those shapes in later rooms actually make fish on the wall. Like they kind of combine to make fish shapes on the wall, which just matches up with the fish statues and the whole idea of like Guan Yin and the whole fisherman deity thing. So I don't know. I feel like one of those pictures of the dude with his hand against the wall and there's like red threads going to every different image. When I talk about this stuff, I'm like
the crazy guy who's like,
yeah,
look, it's all here.
It's like a big conspiracy theory. It's all here. You just gotta follow the red thread, man. I'm not good at explaining it, but it's here. Just listen to me. Yeah, so that's the other thing. Those are just some other some other visual details that I caught on to before. But yeah, we can go in. We can go into the statue for the first time.
All right. So we get in there and there's it's a little circular room, and really the only thing we can do at this point is just kind of fall down to the ground. And so that's what we do. And we fall down to the very bottom of the statue and open the door. It locks on us. And then there's a mini boss. And it is the good old General Grievous. I'm just kidding, Stylemaster.
It does look like General Grievous, yeah. 4 arms. Better for holding weapons.
Cameron,
yeah, it is.
I was watching Cameron fight this guy. Cameron completely annihilated him. Like, I think you got hit, like, no, you didn't even get hit, I don't think.
No, see, I got hit like 3 times in the beginning as I adjusted to the fight, and as soon as I got my first hit in, I perfected him the entire time after.
Cameron annihilated this man, like ruined his entire career.
I was hitting him and then doing a spin slash and then hitting him again. I literally almost never messed up, and then if I did, I would just back off a little to avoid his strike.
Cameron turned him into the stale loser.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Like, it was like perfect. Like, every time like he moved his blades, it was like you got like the perfect strike. Like, you even failed at hitting the Deku Baba like 5 times in a row, but then you went up against this guy, you're just perfect clear.
What can I say?
Mine wasn't as pretty. He definitely got me down to like 5 hearts, but that's because I was trying to rush it.
Yeah, there's definitely a point in this fight where I was like running around breaking skulls and getting hearts out of the skulls, and then went back to the fight after that. I think I ended up killing this dude with a skyward strike, which really felt good because it was the final hit, so it hit him, and his whole like upper body like cut right off of his legs, and I was like, oh yeah, like yeah. Such a cool visual.
Laser beams.
Yeah, there's a lot of, just as another like a little Buddhist sidetrack here. He with the forearms, like that's kind of a thing. Like if you look at Buddhist artwork and stuff like that, like there's a race of deity called the Asura. I don't know if you roll the R or not, Asura. But they're like usually 4 or 6 arms. They usually have 3 faces, but again, this game's really not into the multiple faces thing, so I think anywhere we would see that, we're just not going to. So I think that's what this guy is supposed to be. Because he's kind of got the headdress, you know.
All Asura have 3 faces.
Right, and that's part of the discrepancy. See, it's the thing, like, Nintendo, like, they'll reference stuff without, like, actually using it direct, you know? Like we don't actually fight the characters from the book Little Women in the Forest Temple. Like, we don't actually fight an Asura in the, you know, the ancient cistern. You know, it just to me feels like a reference, because like, why would they put a big Buddha statue and then have a dude with 4 arms in the base of it, you know?
Kind of how I felt with like phoenix birds. I'm like, why in this temple did you put a phoenix? It's like, why in this temple did you put a 4-armed Stelphos? Kind of.
Yeah.
I would like to explain the rest of this temple through song.
Oh, okay.
Because now that we've defeated the mini boss, we get to whip it. Yeah, whip it good. Whip it left, whip it right.
Whip it up, whip it down.
Because we just got the whip.
Yep. We
the
did.
Best inventions in the Zelda game.
And it's not good enough to just whip it and then activate it. Sometimes you do have to whip it in specific direction.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. The whip is it's a lot like the grappling hook in Wind Waker. Except, you know, like you can like steal things off of enemies with it. You can
that's really cool.
You can swing from it sometimes just because, you know, I think the thing even says it has like a mysterious orb at the end, and like the reason that they did that is because if it was like anything else, it wouldn't make sense. It'd have to be like a multi-tool. There's a Swiss Army knife at the end, because it can like pull stuff where you can swing. Like, if you can swing from it, then you shouldn't be able to just pull a lever and like have it detach on its own. You know, like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's magical.
It's a magical orb.
And you whip some stuff. You do some whipping with some like through some bars, and you whip some like weird. Whatever the underwater lotus lily pad
like,
things are.
Shoot a lily pad up on like a column of water and then flip it over with the whip.
Oh, you mean the exoskeleton of the lily pad?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the root system is real rigid.
It really is. And sharp and hooky.
Yeah.
It's not really how water plants work, but you know,
No.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Eventually, we get to a part where we do some more whipping, and then we gotta whip a certain switch that activates the temple's toilet.
Yep. So this is like the cistern part of the ancient cistern. I think this was I think Anthony, you were the one who kind of pointed out that one of the synonyms for cistern is toilet, right? Like that's
toilet, yeah.
Yeah, this is the big ancient toilet. So this is what we do.
Basin, toilet.
We go in here and we turn on the flusher and then we dive right in, because what else are you going to do when you have a flush?
It gets flushed.
Hey, deities need a bathroom too, okay?
Apparently big ones.
I guess so. So we get flushed, and we get flushed into like the prison / viewing area of the underworld, I guess. There's one Bokoblin gatekeeper who has a key for whatever reason. We got to whip that off of him.
One's even in jail either.
No, like it was just
got a key for no reason.
Yeah, it was very I don't know. Like it's just such a random spot in the game that I didn't really feel like needed to be there. But I guess I kind of get it. I don't know if there's a story attached to this. I didn't even look into it. I wasn't that interested in that. But what I will say is that this was a great example of Fee being Fee. Because if you walk out of that, you get the key, you walk through that door, and then there's a cutscene where it shows you like a treasure chest. And we actually skipped this, but there's like a boss key like keyhole up at the top of the goddess statue. And this is a whole other situation of Fee being Fee. So I'll do the one of the keyhole first, and then I'll get back to the one of the treasure chest. So I go up, I see this keyhole, I'm like, oh, like it looks like a lotus flower, because of course everything in this place looks like a lotus flower. But it's got a keyhole, it's got like a chunk missing. I'm like, oh, it's probably a boss key, right? Great. So I go to like look at it, and it's like, oh, you can't do anything with it. Okay, back out. Great. I go over to a sign, and it's like you have to find the key down below, basically. And I was like, okay. So I get off the sign, and Fee immediately jumps out, and he's like, "There's like an 85% chance it's the key to that door that you just looked at." I'm like, I'm like, Fee, do you mean the one that's 2 feet away from the sign? Like, is that the door you're talking? Like, I literally just looked at it, Fee. Are you kidding me?
Fee should pop out next time and be like, 95% of statistics are made up, bro.
So we get down into this basement, and it does this pan over to like this big, like scooped out section of earth, and there's one treasure chest in the middle. I'm like in my, like, I think I even said out loud, I was streaming at the time, so you got to extrovert a lot when you're streaming, and I was like, hey, I think that's probably the treasure chest with the key that we need. And then it kind of like panned back, and Fee jumps out, and she's like, hey, there should be a big clearing here somewhere with a chest. And I was like, you mean the one the camera just showed us, Fee? And she's like, there's a pretty high probability that that's the key that we need, or like that chest contains the key. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now, Fee. Like, I literally just said this out loud to my audience. Like, why why do you do this? Like, we don't have a good relationship right now, Fee.
It's like, there's a 90% chance you want me to hold your hand. Is that true?
No, not at all. Cam, did you turn off the hand holding in this game? There's like an option in the HD remake to like cut back on the Fee-ness.
Oh, no, I don't think I did.
I don't remember her coming out that much, but then again, like when I was playing through it, I never once went to the door where the key needs and the sign and everything. I never went up there. I went through the whole thing, like, just I didn't go there until I actually had the key.
All right.
And Maya watched me play it too, so I also never went up there until I had the key.
Yeah, and I don't remember Fee jumping out with Cameron.
Pro Fee tip: don't look at the door, because she will apparently activate like a sleeper agent into handhold mode if you decide to, I don't know, read signs and get the information yourself. It's just, it's such a weird section of programming, but that's what I had to say. Fee is very much Fee in this temple if you let her.
It's not really feasible that she's
Stop. No. Why?
She's helping you so much.
Before this sentence was even over.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's just bad. But we immediately get back out of here. Like, we go into another pool and we get shot back out. So all we did, we came down here just to look at the treasure chest so that we knew it was down here.
Yep.
And that was it. That was the whole thing. So
now we're on another section that we can use to like get to the other side, basically.
Yeah, and this is where we'd see the first Phoenix. Like, after this whole scene. Like, we get out and I think we like climb up a thing and there's a Phoenix there.
You see Phoenix way before that.
You can see them in the room, but I didn't fight any, at least.
Oh, yeah, like, when you're going up to get the dungeon map, they're over there, I'm pretty sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I never got close enough to them just to actually like get the Fee reading until I was at this part in the dungeon.
You just whip them good.
Yeah, you just whip them down. You just straight up like
whip them down.
Just final strike them or whatever. Like,
do you know?
What's up?
Do you know that they shoot fireballs?
Yes.
Never knew that because I hadn't seen that in my game, and Cameron also killed them before they shot any fireballs. So I'm reading the wiki on them earlier today, and I was like, they shoot fireballs?
Yeah, they
I
got
had no idea.
they got to live long enough to do it, but yeah, they can do it.
That never happened.
Usually they don't. They didn't. I don't know if they did for me in here. I feel like they didn't. I think I didn't see a fireball until the next section of the game. Because there's more Phoenixes in this game. Big spoiler. But basically, after we get past these Phoenixes, we can lower the goddess statue.
So, like a vine lever.
Yeah. We basically like grab the thing and pull it. And
extends a bridge and then makes the statue go.
Right, exactly. And from the cutscene, you can tell that the feet go right over top of the treasure chest. So how are we gonna get it, right? I mean, clearly it's covered up by feet, but there's also a door between the feet, so we can jump back down. We can go back into the goddess statue, go all the way to the bottom. I keep calling it the goddess statue. Like, the goddess statue is probably a better name for the one up on Skyloft that's actually like the goddess with the wings and everything. But the Buddha goddess statue. Why not?
The Buddha.
You come back out of its feet. And this is our first interaction with cursed bokoblins. They are kind of disturbing to
annoying
consider. Yeah, I think Fee says that they come back after death, but that they fear pure and shiny things and will be afraid of the goddess shield. Well, she says the sacred shield, but I had a goddess shield when I came here because I got all those dusk relics in the previous section. So any shield in that family of shields will have the same effect. Like, if you actually hold it up like you're trying to block, they'll put their hands in front of their face and walk slowly backwards. It's actually a really cool effect.
Huh, I never did that.
Yeah. It kind of makes me think that, clearly they fear the goddess.
I have the goddess shield in my game just because I fully upgraded it because I got all the dusk relics that you needed. And
yeah.
It's so much fun. They're like, it's almost like if you held fire up to zombie in a other game, they're like, oh my god, no, it burns.
Too much lies, too beautiful,
too pink, even though I look pink.
Yeah, so I think that these guys are down here by design. I think that this is a part of there are things that made its way into the temple, and other things that I think these bokoblins at one point had a life, got killed, got reanimated, but not by a Girahim or another big bad. I think it literally was these things, they fear the goddess. They act as if they've been seriously demolished or tortured or something at least once already. Because that's kind of how they're acting. So I think that they're here as part of I don't say it as part of the lesson, but as part of this whole proving process. And yeah, I think
so. What
that they're here against their will.
Saying is when you kill them, there is a chance that they drop an evil crystal, which the in-game description of that says a chunk of pure crystallized monster malice, often obtained from monsters who possess the power to curse.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, you can get those from... It's a very, very rare... I think it's 1 or 2% drop rate, but...
Yeah, I mean, if they have the power to curse, that would kind of go against what I was just saying, but...
Yeah, this is what the description says, but it is a chunk of pure monster malice, which they basically are nothing but... They don't have a mind. They're just kind of mindlessly wandering the...
I mean, if they were cursed, then maybe they could spread the curse.
Maybe they could, yeah. That makes sense. I mean, there is, bokoblin juice everywhere that if you step in, you get cursed. It's pretty gross.
Yeah, that's true. And it is gross.
And then, speaking of bokoblin juice, there's a whole cave that looks like a cursed bokoblin that, you have to go to and, shut off the waterfall and do all that, but... You have to send a bug into its eye or whatever, which is come on, guys. isn't there enough like imagery here? Like, I don't need this right now.
Or did you do that stuff? Because I feel like you cut the part short and like didn't use the bomb flower that you were supposed to use, and you just like threw your own bomb to blow up the rock on the platform.
Oh yeah, I kind of cheated. I didn't know how the game wanted me to do it, so I took out a bomb, I put the bomb down, I switched to the little bug thing and had it pick up the bomb that I put down and flew it just close enough to blow the rock up, and I didn't do any other way. I did that totally manually.
Like the entire part that like with the waterfall and everything you were supposed to do. Literally I didn't want to say anything because he did it. Like, it worked. So I just, like, was like, all right.
Yeah, I had that thought, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to switch my inventory fast enough because every time I got to switch my items, like, my Wii Remote rebels against me. So I was like, it's not good. So I didn't even try.
You did have to do the switch really fast to actually get it to work.
Yeah, I can imagine that being the case. But yeah, we get over to the gears. And I call them gears specifically because this is another Buddhist reference. So there's this...
The fate.
Gears of fate. No, gears of the Dharma. I actually don't know if I can explain this well because I, again, haven't studied Buddhism. So I literally...
Dharma.
This one was actually off of a Buddhist website. So it's not as like, is this true? I know a lot of people like, they don't like the wiki info. They're like, that's not really reliable. It's not really the true source. It's very secondary, etc. I love Wikipedia. I love wikis where people contribute information that I can just kind of be like, hey, learn that fact.
Don't be a teacher.
But yeah, so this one was...
Oh, I just looked up Dharma, like the symbol. It looks like a kind of like a pirate ship wheel.
Gotcha. So this is like... So this isn't a 1-for-1 reference again, because there's like supposed to be 3 switches. Like apparently there's 3 different switches that the Buddha was said to have gone through, like turning these gears or whatever. So the first switch like was an understanding of like the suffering in the world, like taking a what do you call it? Like basically the first switch was to get him to the 4 noble truths, which I guess is like a starting point in the Buddhist like theology. Like if you're gonna like learn this, it's kind of where you might start is with these 4 noble truths. A lot of them deal with suffering and like what are the causes and what are the effects and how do you avoid it, that kind of thing. The second switch and kind of gets into this idea of like the emptiness of the material world. Like nothing you can see is like really significant, I guess. Like again, like at this point you're getting into a place where you're not in the beginning stages anymore. So I'm giving you like a soundbite of something that I don't understand. So let's just be clear about that. At this point, we're too far deep. And
I think the general concept is that if you just entrust too much into the things you buy and the things you have just in your life, that you won't actually find any like satisfaction in that in your life. Is the general concept. Materialism has always been a bad thing because like if, at one point you can't get that with you. So if you put too much stock into what is temporary, then all of that's going to fade at one point. You won't have anything left.
I agree with the sentiment that you're sharing. It's just like it almost seemed like from what I read that it goes further than that to basically almost like I'm not saying this is what they say, but it almost sounds like a Matrix theory of like we're living in a fake world. Like the people are like the only real thing. So it's like it's to that level of like
it doesn't matter.
Existence is like a facade. I don't know. It's a whole thing. So then the last gear turning is supposed to like get him to an understanding of our true nature, break away from a cyclical like pattern of rebirth, death and rebirth, and like basically become this enlightened being who is able to, go to paradise, be released from suffering, like become the enlightened one.
Reach nirvana.
That kind of aligns with like what the central theme of Buddhism is like, you live these lives to try to become a perfect being and learn in each one until you finally reach the end goal of nirvana and essentially stop the wheel.
Yeah, and I don't know if nirvana is the right term or not because I don't remember enough from like high school. But yeah, it's you got the concept. Like
Nirvana is either Hinduism or Buddhism. I don't remember which.
Right, and there's, from what I understand, there's actually crossover between those two. So there's like there's like different, like I said, like there's the different sections of Buddhism. So there's actually areas where like Hinduism and Buddhism like have the same, like you'll see the same deities, you'll see the same like players.
Yeah, they have similarities for sure.
Yeah,
Sure,
and a lot of similar concepts as well. I mean, Buddhism goes. I mean, it's something that has like kind of made its way through a lot of other cultural things. Like there's a lot of pop culture that references or uses Buddhist ideas. Like I think Star Wars uses a ton of it. You know, I just as like offhand, that's
look at Netero from Hunter x Hunter.
Sure. I mean, he might even be a Buddhist. So
did you finish that, Fonz? Because he has like a straight up Buddhist ability at the end of it.
Hunter x Hunter. No, I'm in the Chimera arc still because it just won't end.
Oh, may have.
You got something good coming up.
You know Netero, right, Isaac?
I do not know by the name.
Old man, you should have seen him.
Oh yeah. He's getting ready for a big fight, but he hasn't fought yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're in for something really. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. That specific encounter. But I think at this point we're kind of far away from our temple, so I think we need to come back to the game.
So we climb up this rope in this room after the gears of the Dharma. I don't know if you wanted to keep talking about, like, if there was anything else you wanted to say about the gears.
No, I mean, yeah, that's the thing is, like, there's no explanation for this other than, like, Link is turning this gear back and forth to make his way through this underworld. And, you know, get to the end where he actually runs into another Buddhist, like, parable. So, like, whereas the turning of the gear, I mean, like, again, it's not 1-to-1, he only turns it twice, but still, you make your way through this gear puzzle, and you run into what is essentially a reference to a short story. So this is like the big one, the one where if you listen to the Book of Medora podcast, or if you listen to Sacred Realms or another Zelda lore podcast, like this is one of the ones that's really well known. Like they've all kind of make mention and give their take on like what this story is and how they've put it into the game. But it's called The Spider's Thread. As you know, you can tell like what that's about. Obviously, like we are literally going to climb a spider's thread, right?
Yeah.
It looks just like one of the ones that the Skulltulas use, except a little thicker, maybe. And so there's a story. It actually the very first telling of this kind of story was called The Onion, right? I know that sounds really random because how do you get from onion to spider's thread? Well, I'll tell you. So the story of The Onion is a story about an evil woman who's in hell, right? And apparently she had done like almost no good deeds in her life, but she has a guardian angel who goes to God and is like, hey, they did one good thing. They gave an onion to a beggar. And he's like, all right, well, take the onion and see if you can pull her out of hell. And this is like some random religious fiction short story. Like there's nothing that I can tell that is like, most of this is nonsense, but she takes, the guardian angel takes this onion, tries to pull this woman out of hell using an onion, which is crazy to me. But at the same time, like that's the story. So this woman grabs onto the onion and is like so happy she's going to like, get to paradise, whatever, like she get to heaven. And then a bunch of other people try to grab onto her to also get pulled out of hell. And she's like, no, this onion is for me, not for you. Starts kicking and the onion breaks and she ends up stuck in hell forever. Like the opportunity is squandered. So there is an like from what I can tell, there's an actual like Buddhist writing or a quote even where like there's this character, Kendata, right? That's his name, is in the underworld, like basically suffering. He's trying to make his basically pay for all the suffering that he caused in the real world through this. And the Buddha or something along those lines basically tells him like, hey, like any good deed, even something as simple as sparing the life of a spider, will help you get out of here. Like basically when it comes time to rise out of the underworld, like any good deed that you have will help you. And he specifically gives the example of not killing a spider because, again, in the Buddhist religion, like not killing things, even small things, like that's a big part of the teaching. Like Which, again, is where Nintendo doesn't really care because they're like, Link's just going to kill everything. Like,
Yeah.
kind of what you do. But so those two stories got mixed together like that. The Onion was written by this dude, Fyodor Dostoevsky. So clearly probably not Buddhist, based on the fact that he's writing like Christian fiction. The next short story that was written from that, The Spider's Thread, combined The Onion with that Buddhist quote. And his name was Ryonosuke Akatagama, right? And I probably butchered that, so don't at me.
Ryosuke. Who
actually really soon after this other story was written, basically combined it with the Buddhist quote to make The Spider's Thread, which is a story where Buddha's walking around in paradise. He's looking down through the lotus ponds that are like super clear to look down into the underworld, sees this one sinner in particular named Kandata, and basically like examines his life and finds that he had one good deed where he didn't kill a spider. So he drops down for him a single spider's thread for him to climb back up out of the underworld and into paradise. And so he starts to climb, and he's like so happy that he's climbing. He gets stuck about halfway because he's too tired, but he's so happy he's gonna he knows he's gonna keep going. He just needs to rest for a little bit. Looks down, sees a bunch of other people coming up with him, like other people climbing from behind, which is kind of what happens in this scene here in the game.
Yeah.
And he starts like shouting at them, like, "No, this thread is for me, not for you. Too many people, it's gonna break." And when he starts yelling at them and saying that, the spider's thread breaks and he ends up stuck in the underworld forever. So that's not what happens to us. So like these stories are all like a failed salvation story where the person who was supposed to be rescued was only thinking about their own salvation and not about the salvation of other people. Which is a pretty profound, like I think that's like a pretty good message about like, okay, like only caring about your own salvation, that's pretty selfish. Like that's another that's another issue that you got to deal with, right? Like, so I don't know, like it just seems weird because like they use the spider's thread and they use all the imagery, like you are climbing out of the underworld up into like the paradise section of the temple. Yeah. And you get chased by bokoblins and you literally have to fight them off of you, but you still get to make your way out. You still get out. And so like, it's not a failed attempt. It's like, but it also, again, like you're fighting monsters. So it's kind of different, like there's just like, it's one of those things where like, developers saw this story, said, hey, we can use that, but not really all of it because this is a Zelda game, not a Buddhist tale. So,
Yeah. That sounds like a giant nod to it.
Right. It absolutely is. And that's why like everybody like this story right here was the springboard that got me into like the gears and trying to figure out, okay, this Buddha statue, is it the Buddha? Is it someone else? Like if it is, like what does it mean? Like what is it trying to communicate? Right. Like this was the springboard because this is the one that's so obvious that like. And listen, like, if it wasn't for somebody saying it, I wouldn't have gotten it. So I'm not trying to say it's obvious as in if you didn't see it, like, you're dumb. I'm just saying, like, it's the one that stands out the clearest because it is literally a spider's thread connecting from paradise to the underworld. Like, if you knew anything about this other story, it would have jumped out at you like a jump scare. Like, it would have been great.
Honestly, when I was playing it, I thought it was a really weird design concept. And wondered why the thread I was climbing looked so much like spider's thread. And it was such like
no Skaltalas there.
Yeah, and it was such a what's the word I'm looking for? Like railroaded event, like something you couldn't change where you were climbing and they always got to you and you had to shake them off.
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt weird. So now knowing there's a whole story that kind of led to it is really cool.
Yeah. And I think this tells a story of like, I mean, like obviously, like what are they trying to say about the goddess, right? Like, 'cause that's what this temple is. And like obviously that thread was provided to you not by a Skaltala, but by some other person who designed the temple. Like so. To me, like it's supposed to be a story about salvation, but it's like it's really weird because I think what this whole place is referencing is the story that we learned at the beginning of the game about the goddess coming down, sending the people up to Skyloft and then coming back down to defeat the evil. And we'll see that play out in the next few scenes as well. Like, it's almost uncanny. Like when you watch it, you're like, oh, so that's what they're. Okay. So it's because you get out of here, and immediately you hit a switch, for the goddess to come back up. And there's even a sign that says return the goddess to original position and then go back down the way you came. So you do that, you hit a switch, the goddess rises back up, which to me is like, okay, you just came up on the thread, she came up just, from the switch or whatever. But that's like, to me, what that speaks to is this is the goddess bringing the people up to Skyloft, right? Like this is her providing a thread for the people to get off of the surface to be saved. So she lifts up so you can see the chest again. You go back down. And it's like a hop, skip, and a jump away to the chest. You open it up, and what do you get but a blessed idol, which is the name of the boss key in this one. And it's meant to look just like the statue outside. And it says it's supposed to invoke gratitude. Like it looks like it's made to invoke gratitude is one of the details that it says when you lift it up in the air. And immediately you get ambushed by a bunch of monsters. And you can try to fight them, but it's way more efficient just to run past them and get out of the hole because the goddess statue starts coming back down, and they'll all get frozen in time while that statue comes down and just crushes them all.
That was really stupid.
So that's like the return of the goddess to the surface to destroy all the monsters. Like you don't have to do anything anymore. The goddess has got it for you, right? Like it almost seems like it's exact. Like you get what I'm saying. Like you see the metaphor here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily think of that while I was playing, but I see it clearly now that you mention it.
Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of plays back into that whole, like, this deity who senses or who hears the suffering of the world or who hears the world or who has this compassion and mercy and, like, like kind of tying that back into the story of the Buddha dropping the thread and doing all these things and then relating it back to the goddess of this game and, like, how she comes down and crushes the monster. Like, it just seems like this is the message that I think they're communicating. Is like, this is who they see. Like, this is the goddess that they're trying to show us is this character in the game. Like this, they're trying to educate us about the goddess through this temple. So I don't know. It gets real deep. Deeper than I thought. Like when I first played this game, I didn't realize any of this. Like I didn't think about any of it. I didn't look up anything. Like it's just like, oh, that was a cool temple. All right, moving on. Like, I don't know.
That's pretty much me.
Yeah, but so the statue lowers. We can go right back up, and we get to the boss. Yeah. Like I think
and this boss is fun.
The ancient automaton Galactos.
One of the most divisive bosses in all of Zelda history.
Probably best boss.
Kinda kicked my butt. A little bit.
He's very good. This was like a 15-minute fight for me. I don't know about you guys.
It's a long one.
He didn't kill me. Like I didn't get any game overs or anything. I don't even think I used a fairy, but it took me a long time to fight him. Like I had to have him like cut down some pillars so I could get some hearts. Like I was running around in circles for a while. Like there's just a lot to do here.
I lost one fairy, but I didn't game over.
Not even alive either when we get into the room. Girahim is actually standing on top of him. He's like,
oh, yeah.
Again, Link, again. You interrupt me when I'm doing stuff. And it just makes me really mad when you do that. So I'm going to have this guy kill you. I'm not going to do it because I'm a busy, busy man. Standing on top of this statue, but I have him do it. It's like, really, Girahim? Like, if you're so busy, what are you just loafing around for?
Yeah, why do you have to wait for me to monologue?
Right, like he was just chilling there. He gave you some critical information. He said he was trying to find a way to revive the Demon King, which was kind of a huge drop because I was like, what Demon King? Like, who are you talking about, Girahim? Like, what is that?
Like, you mean the big black thing we just sealed away? Like...
Is that the Demon King?
Yeah, I would assume Toothy is what he's talking about right now.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't mentioned Toothy as he's the imprisoned, but they haven't said, like, he's the Demon King imprisoned, like,
Demon
I don't know.
King. Yeah, he's just the imprisoned one.
But we don't know about anyone else, like you said.
Yeah, no, we don't. But, he's trying to revive the demon king, and then he snaps his fingers, gives life to this automaton. Which is interesting to me because to me what that reads like is that he actually fought Galactos before you showed up. I think Galactos was originally a guardian. Again, he has the 6-arm thing going on. But I guess I'll drop this on you and see what you guys think. He has 6 arms, 1 head. Is it possible that he is a representation of the sages? Now, hear me out. There are 6 sages and then 1 head sage for a total of 7. And the head that they gave Galactos just happens to match the Buddha head outside. Like, to me, it seems like, hey, we have this 6-armed defense system, each one wielding a blade. Like, it just seems like a huge, like, call to other systems and other games of, like, it's a bit of a stretch, I know, but I don't know. Like, I was thinking about it. I was like, hey, it's like there's a head sage that's literally the head of this thing, and then there's 6 arms that like give it its power, and then it comes and fights you. But really, it was supposed to fight other evil things. And Link is like a sword wielder who has 6 different powers in Ocarina of Time. Like, I don't know. It just, to me, it there was a pattern there that kind of matched up, but not perfectly. But still, I thought it was valid.
I do not agree with you on this one.
All right. That's fair.
It's a stretch. It's definitely a stretch.
All right. Okay, cool. I just wanted to throw it out there.
I don't see it, but I can see where you could see the connection.
Gotcha.
I did want to point out, though, we get to a second phase of the fight, and basically it's after you to use the whip to rip his arms off and then stab his chest. He kind of breaks out of the ground, gets 2 legs, and unleashes his 6 arms, and he actually uses ancient Indian weapons, which I thought was like Punjabi weapons and Sanskrit weapons. They're called chakram, and he uses chakram blades. So I thought that was like an other nice little like reference that he does. Also, if you notice on his, if you take a very close look, I only noticed this on Cameron's version because you cannot, oh, the Wii version. Yeah. So I only noticed this on Cameron's version, and I looked it up like literally 20 minutes ago. But got Buddhist lions on his armor. Look up like Buddhist lions.
Buddhist lions, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're painted all across his armor.
I did see the lion faces. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, and it's specifically like that part of the world, like the way that they've like designed like a lot of like their door handles for like their temples and stuff have this lion face on it. So you could almost think that like the lion in the real world is like the guardian to these temples, whereas the lions were painted on Galactos because he's a guardian.
Gotcha.
Another little hint they threw in there.
Another little nod.
Yeah, there's I remember finding a face somewhere too, but
the face on him?
There's like the purple stuff that Girahim uses to like activate him. Like I'm guessing you'd call it malice, but maybe not.
I think that's malice, right?
Probably. I mean, there's
sounds about right.
Some images given up. You
it's
know,
like the evil
like
crystal.
Yeah, but it comes across like it's purple with like black dots in it around that little red circle that he has in the middle. And I'm looking for the right image because there's one where it shows it really well, but there's actually like a pattern that's it's symmetrical. So like the top and the bottom are the same, like radially, right? But if you look at the bottom in some images, you'll see like what looks like 2 eyes, a nose, and like 4 teeth going across, almost as if like an evil face. It's not like a significant detail. I don't think it's real or intended, but I just thought it was kind of funny because it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He is kind of taken over by evil right now. So it's just a black dot. It's almost like a snowman kind of face. Like it's not really hashed out or anything.
I didn't notice that, but I guess you could kind of see that if you look at the like designs, the symmetrical purple and black. Honestly, like if you look at an evil crystal, the purple energy that's flowing inside of him looks Aside from the like shiny pink goo juice that's coming out of the evil crystal, it's sort of similar. So it's just Malice and Skyward Sword is all the same.
I'm gonna send you guys a picture of it, of the face. I just found a good picture of it.
Evil energy.
The malice corruption, like in Breath of the Wild.
Oh. So how much fun did you guys have picking up the chakram that his arms dropped?
Once I figured out that's what you had to do, I was like, yeah, I can get behind this. Take this, you.
It was like a very beginning step almost for Breath of the Wild where like you can pick up any weapon you want. Game, essentially. Like it was almost
Oh, that's
like
a good point.
first step and foray into that realm of gameplay. Like Breath of the Wild. Where you're just like, oh, you smack this dude's blades off, we'll pick him up and smack him back with it.
Yeah, Wind Waker did that too. Like there was a lot of like weapon stealing in Wind Waker.
Yeah. Like the spears and stuff. Alright, I was looking at the picture. I see the eyes.
Yeah.
Side. Sort of a stretch, but I see what you're talking about.
Right?
So it's like two eyes and a mouth, right?
It's like a little skull face.
Yeah, the teeth, there's like 4 teeth across the bottom, basically. Like it looks like a little skull face, yeah. Like even the nose is like got the upside down heart shape a little bit.
Oh.
It's so small and random, like nobody would ever see
small
that.
Skull.
I was like drawing a sketch of him one day because, you know, it's Linktober and I gotta get my sketches in. and I was like looking at these details and I'm like, that looks like a little face. So I don't know if it was yeah.
There's even a face inside that face because I didn't even see that face first. I saw the 2 eyes and I thought the nose was just a cute little mouth. And I thought it was just a cute little face. And then you're like, no, the bottom is, and it's like a skull. And I was like, oh, I see that too now. Wow.
Nice.
Crazy.
I'm probably going to put this up when the episode goes out just so people know what we're talking about. So check our Insta if you want to see what we're talking about.
Cue the song Faces.
Yeah. So yeah, one thing I didn't know about this guy was that once you get the sword off, like once you get the first sword away from him, you can just cut his legs right off and just go to town.
Yeah, you just blast him away.
Because the first time I did it, like I got all of his arms off before I picked up the sword. And somebody in the comments was like, hey, you can just hit him with the sword once you get one. I was like, oh, that makes this a lot easier.
Yeah, you just wait for him to finish an attack so you have an opening, and then you walk up and like, bam, 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 and then, yeah.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's great. Definitely got that Flintstones Bam Bam vibe going.
So,
what's that?
Weird thing I noticed, actually summons cursed bokoblins, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, like, how to tie that in, or, like, what meaning that has, but yeah, he just brings them in.
Maybe it's because he has the curse, and he can make other things curse, so he curses the dead bokoblins to come back to life.
Come here, come hither. We beat him. We crank him with his own weapons.
Bringing him back.
We clean his colactos.
You
like that one? I think that's a good one.
I'll give you a little golf clap. Eee.
And the double card still. So yeah, we can kind of move on to the next room where we find the sacred flame. I don't know where Gearham left to, but he's always teleporting and stuff, so whatever. He didn't go through this door, I guess. Is the
gone. He's not double checking like always. We're good.
Yeah. I even think at this point knows. Oh, so at the beginning he knew that Link was doing, right? Like Link was trying to find Zelda, so he knew Hero was trying to find the chosen heroine. Yeah. Now I don't think Gearham really knows what we're doing. He just thinks that we're like trying to get in his way.
Yeah, we're just that pest that shows up every once in a while and really annoys him because he's always.
I think he knows what we're actually doing right now with the sacred flames.
He's just always in a bad mood. It's like, Gearham, I've come to offer counsel and like some therapy for your bad mood. And he's like, you again. Why?
I've come to bargain. No.
So yeah, so we get through. He definitely doesn't play like from the Ganondorf handbook. Like he doesn't know that we're just going to open the door that he's trying to get through all the time.
I feel like he's a tsundere.
Don't know what that means.
Okay, so it's a Japanese term when a chick acts like, or when anybody acts like they don't like you. They act like they kind of put on a front, but they like you a lot. Girahim like goes out of his way to get in front of where you want to go, even though you're not even looking for Girahim. And right now, you're probably not anywhere near where he's going to be doing anything important. Like, because he was chasing Zelda before you were going after her. Now she's in another area, and he's trying to get to her somehow. But why is he in the cistern? He like got ahead of you and is waiting there to go. Oh, I'm so busy. Ha ha ha. Here, fight this. I mean, he's putting on a front, but he's just like trying to get all up in Link's biz.
At the moment, he's trying to find a way to revive his so-called, what you could say, master, I guess.
His Demon King, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think at this point we learn where he's going or why he's doing things or what he even needs to revive his master. But he's doing things, apparently, he says. So-called, he says. And he's very busy.
Yeah, he has so many things going on right now.
Yeah, but we walk in on, he's just like relaxing on the top going, oh my gosh, you're here again in my way. I don't know. To me, it seems so weird. He's just waiting for you to catch up to him and then complaining about how busy he is and he doesn't have time and he just leaves.
Yeah, I don't know. He's sitting on the spiky hat of Galactos. I don't know how that's comfortable, but he is.
Or productive because he's so busy.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean,
he just wants Link's attention.
I only kind of get, I mean, he's here at a temple that is supposed to tell the story of the goddess, right? I mean,
yeah, there might be something, the underworld part or something.
Another allegory that you could argue again, and this is another one where you guys might be like, no, that's not it. But another one you could argue is that this temple is also like a story of like how the chosen spirit maiden would become like imbued with the god, like because here's the thing, like there's a lot of different religions and groups that kind of believe in ritual cleansing and stuff like that, and we've already seen that Zelda went through 2 different purification rituals, I guess you could call them, right?
Yeah.
And this, again, like we talked about how this statue goes down to the surface, comes back up, down to the surface, comes back up. But if you're to look at that on the perspective of the upper floor, you have a statue that's kind of dipping into a lotus pond twice. So it looks a lot like what Zelda did to get ready for the goddess to, you could say, resurrect, but I mean, that's not really what's going on. But so I think that there's a chance that this temple, because it's kind of like the goddess's like whole deal, it's like he's trying to learn, like, okay, how does she do it? And how does that, like, how can I apply that to get the Demon King to resurrect? Like, basically, how can I use the goddess's methods to resurrect the Demon King? Like, how can I use these for my own, like, you know, my own plan here?
I guess you could say there's probably information. Like, he's got his own thing, like how we have our own mission for the Sacred Flame. He probably has his own mission that maybe there's information locked away within this temple and we might not know of it, but he's trying to figure this out and find his own way, maybe the history of the battles that had taken place, and you know, you can see that.
Yeah.
He's like trying to figure it out by searching for clues and information hidden within the temple, I guess. Yeah. I wish they told us like what he's doing at this point, other than like, oh, I'm busy.
Yeah, my assumption, or at least my read of it, is he's trying to study resurrection in general. In order to,
it's a good way to look at it, because there's a lot of that hint theme here.
I can see that.
I will harness the phoenixes.
Yes.
Use the phoenixes to revive him.
I will make a giant furnace of phoenixes.
We will burn them in a circle around the Demon King, and he will rise from the ashes in their stead.
You just see like Yuri like flying out of the old cistern. Like he's got a bunch of phoenixes locked in cages, and he's got a whole cauldron of the cursed bokoblin juice like filled up.
What are you doing?
Like, this might be useful.
I'm making Horcruxes. Back off. That was a real nerdy joke.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter.
All right, so we get to to the end, and we open into this room. We see this like it's kind of like a what would you say? Like it almost looks like the goblet
Oh no.
chamber in Harry Potter. I'm not gonna lie, it looks. I don't want to make another Harry Potter reference, but the cauldron.
You totally want to make another Harry Potter
I
reference.
do. It looks like if you
Don't
in
be
the
shy with
Goblet
those
of
Harry Potter
Fire,
references.
and you take the like when you get the note out of the I think it was whatever the like cauldron on fire thing was.
That was the Goblet of Fire, wasn't it?
The Goblet of Fire, where he like gets the note of like the participants in the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Harry wasn't supposed to get it. Yeah, so it kind of looks like that, honestly. That's what it reminded me of. And then you skyward strike it, and all of a sudden this giant sacred green flame goes and Fee jumps out and like burns herself alive, and then she kind of like flies around the temple creating an earthquake because she's on fire.
She's like that moth meme. She just jumps out and she's like, lamp.
Yeah.
I love
She's
lamp.
screaming, Link, there's a 99.99% chance this is the sacred flame that we're looking for.
You think so?
So she jumps into the blade, and you power up the blade with this sacred flame. And then I don't know when you learn this, but it's actually called Farore's flame, which you learn from the Ocarina of Time that Farore was one of the 3 Triforce goddesses. And all of a sudden, on Link's little hand, we see the Triforce of Courage pop right up onto his hand.
Right.
Yeah, we did.
But it was like that moment was just like yes to me.
Which is wild because I'm pretty sure in this game, I don't want to spoil too much, but like that would imply that when we go to the other flames, we're going to get the other Triforce marks.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what that ends up. There's like, this game treats it a little differently. I don't want to ruin it, so I'm not going to say anything more, but there's different meanings behind things that we thought we understood. So that's all I'll say for now.
It's also like it's a different story. You got to look at it as it's a different story in a sense. Like Flame, yes, is enhancing our blade. With that enhancement, there's the power that comes with it, and that's an Ocarina of Time where you get the Triforce of Courage. And this time, we don't have someone like Ganondorf actively searching for the Triforce, so we're not competing at this point with someone who's like after the pieces of the Triforce.
Right.
Ganondorf was. So essentially for us, it's just a like scavenger hunt to find these flames. We're not trying to also race some demon lord king Ganondorf to get the Triforces.
Right. So we get an enhancement to the blade. I don't even think it's called the Goddess Sword anymore. Doesn't it change its name to something else?
Goddess Longsword.
The Goddess Longsword. There we go. And we step outside, and Farron comes and meets us right outside the door, because there's always somebody to meet us right outside. And she's like, well, you still don't quite look like the hero. You have more work to do, but the sword's a little longer. You look a little stronger. Good on you. Kind of basically just dips. I'm like, you didn't need to be here. Like, that wasn't really critical information. Like, you could have, I don't know. This is a weird, like, bookend to this part of the game.
Just there to say, good job.
Right. Which leaves us with only one thing left, and that's a Groose update. So the last Groose update, if you guys, like, because we're right in the area. Like, there's no reason not to do this. Head back towards the Sealed Temple. You can even, like, stop by Gorko. He'll teach you one symbol about the goddess walls if you want. You don't have to. Keep going. Go past the old woman. Go outside. And there is, we don't immediately see Groose, but what you might immediately see is a giant train track looking thing that goes all around the top of the Sealed Grounds.
Didn't know he did this early.
Yeah, it's very early.
I thought it was until like a little bit later.
But, I mean, let's be clear. In the span of just a few hours of gameplay, this dude put in work. Like, if you didn't go to sleep or anything, the implication is that this was a one-day project for Groose. And that to me is wild. Like, this dude is... I mean, he's got the muscles for it, I guess. Go outside. huge train track. He's standing on a platform, pushing and pulling this lever. And if you go talk to him, he's like, "Oh yeah, Grandma was talking about my part to play and all this was, and I thought, hey, she said that big monster might come back, and if it is, we're gonna be ready, And I was like, I guess so, Bruce. My goodness, like, what is?
Got
this
like
thing?
A whole like Monster Hunter world base, like train tracks and cannons set up, ready for that monster to come, that Elder Dragon.
He's like MacGyver over here. He's got nothing down on the surface, and he created all this.
Yeah, and he's testing the trebuchet lever. He's just pulling it and pushing it. It's funny because you talk to him, and then like when you're done talking to him, I think even before you talk to him, he'll do this. Like if you just stand next to him, he'll look over at you with this smirk on his face and just push and pull the lever a bunch of times like he's practicing. And then he'll like point over and be like, "Hey!" Like he's like shooting something off, even though he's not. He's just testing the mechanism. So he puts on this whole show like, "This is pretty good, right? You see how this lever works? Check out this lever action." Hey! Like, oh my goodness. A few times I've just stood there and watched it for like a minute because it's just hilarious. It cracks me up. But he's so proud of it. Which, I mean, he ought to be. I mean, look at the thing. He built it in a day. It's nonsense.
Everything we did, it's been more than a day. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, we did all the side
Temples,
quests and stuff, so I mean, we
rounds
definitely
and
slept
stuff.
through a few days. So
Yeah. I wanted to also give a little spoiler to our listeners and Cameron. If you thought this temple, this portion of the game, was very fun, very new, very interesting, very themey. Oh, just you wait, because next episode is possibly not only mine, probably not only Fonz's, but a lot of other people's like favorite part of the game. And so it's something you can look forward to.
yeah, the next episode we're gonna cover through
Banging.
I don't even want to say what it is, but basically through the next temple, up to the next sacred flame, I'll say. And it is by far one of the most revered like areas, temples, designs of the entire Zelda franchise. Now, that being said, I don't have, at least not at this point, I do not have a deep dive into like any kind of literature or like other stories that are being referenced, but I honestly don't think we need them because it's so good in its own right.
It's so good.
There's so much to unpack just on the surface level. So yeah, definitely join us next time. But
that's gonna be banging.
Banging.
Yeah. Other than that, we appreciate y'all for listening. Definitely, share us with a friend. Like, give us a review on whatever app it is you listen on. It really just helps us meet new people, have new people listen to the show, be able to find it in the first place. Check us out on our social media. We'll put the Galactose picture on our Insta for y'all. And yeah, y'all have a good few weeks until our next one. Peace out.
Peace.
Did you get all that?
Oh no, I'm having a brain blank right now.
No.
No.